So there have been a lot of stories lately about the PlayStation VR 2. A lot of people have gotten hands-on time with it and have had very positive experiences. However, there was one notable story that has been popping up, and that's the fact that it's not compatible with PSVR 1. Now, my initial reaction to this was like, what? Why? And I think a lot of people are reacting to it thinking that like this is going to be a cash grab for Sony. I actually wanted to discuss why I don't think that's the case. I think there's a little bit more going on here than you might realize for the PlayStation VR 2 versus the PlayStation VR 1. And I think it actually kind of makes sense that they're not doing backwards compatibility. Let's dive into why I think that right now. Thank you for watching, everybody. If you like my content, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when content goes live. Thank you so much for watching. Now, I know a lot of us react cynically when we see something like this. Confirmed on Sony's official PlayStation podcast, PSVR games are not compatible with PSVR 2. And they discuss it around 29:10 in the video. Now, my initial reaction was, what? Why? Because as hard as I am on Sony, this seems like a very easy win for them in terms of marketing and in terms of just having a back catalog of games day one available for PlayStation VR 2. It didn't make a lot of sense to me that they would, for some reason, not have those games be backwards compatible. And now the reaction to it from a lot of people was, oh, well, they're just going to charge us again for those games. And maybe they will in the long run, but I think there's a lot that goes into the development of PlayStation VR 2 versus a PlayStation VR 1 game. And I'm going to get into the threads of that for just a second, but to paraphrase, largely PlayStation VR 2, most of the tracking is from the helmet and it tracks outward. With the original PlayStation VR, it was cameras and you have the light sensors and the light bar, and those would track it would just work the opposite. All the sensors were on the outside of the camera, like within your living room, and now you just sort of wear the helmet, and the helmet does most of the tracking. So what would that mean for the gameplay of those old games? I think it would mean an extensive recoding of how those systems function for the headset, which is why I didn't do one of those headlines about PlayStation VR 2, because as soon as I started learning more about how the different tracking works, which is why I asked the initial question, I realized, yeah, actually, this kind of makes sense that they're not releasing PSVR 1 games on PSVR 2. So obviously, keep thinking it's a cash grab if that's what you want to think, but I don't agree with that. I think that this actually makes a lot of sense, and I think that Sony might have actually made the right call here, because games simply wouldn't work in the way that you would expect. Here's one random user who said, well, duh, they are two very different tech. PSVR uses PlayStation cameras facing you to read the lights on the headset, and PlayStation Move for its positioning. PSVR 2 uses built-in cameras facing the opposite direction for positioning. PSVR games would need to be completely rebuilt to work with PSVR 2. And as you can see, you have the camera, you have the joysticks, you have the light bar on the controller in some cases, and versus the PlayStation VR 2, which tracks in the opposite direction. Now, I've publicly said that I don't care a tremendous amount about VR on this channel, but somebody who knows a lot more about it than I do is John Linneman over at Digital Foundry. So let's dive into what he said. Basically, he said, this is a tricky one. Move is compatible with PlayStation 5, right? I think that'd be the only way to make it work. Gamepad driven would work fine, I'd imagine, or maybe USB-C connectivity for the headset breaks compatibility as well. Frustrating situation. But as he starts to think about it more, he responded to somebody, even if they did, then what? The controllers don't match. In VR, if you're holding the PSVR 2 controllers and it shows your virtual hands holding a Move, it really does not work. The user experience is bad. And that was responding to, surely they could convert its inputs to match with match what PSVR 1 was doing on a system level? Doesn't SteamVR support various headsets with different tracking and multiple controllers? I suspect this is more down to them seeing it as a new platform and trying to push those games. Even if they did, then what? The controllers don't match. In VR, if you're holding the PSVR 2 controllers and it shows your virtual hands holding a move, it really does not work. The user experience is bad. And what was that other thread that I had up here with him? So he went on to sort of talk at length about the challenges here. He says they'd have two options: bundle camera adapter and allow people to use Move controllers, or make it simple enough for devs to patch their games for PS5 support. Well, that wouldn't be simple, but still. Actually, lack of PSVR 1 support makes perfect sense, but what's actually far, far more disappointing is a lack of PC support. That's where the headset could really shine, since its specs are better than most PC headsets on the market. Wait, gamepad wouldn't necessarily work either, as those games rely on the light bar. So when you actually start diving into all of the pieces that went into making PSVR 1 work, I actually think I have a video on this channel of me playing Resident Evil on PSVR 1. Like I said, though, it just, like, the tech never really grabbed me. But everything we've heard about the PlayStation VR 2 has largely been positive from people who've had a chance to experience it. So having to make the changes of putting the tracking basically all in the headset versus external devices being tracked by a camera or something seems like it might have been the right move. And it's exciting to hear that VR could get some massive improvements. I've used the Valve Index. I played a whole bunch of Beat Saber. Also, I believe I streamed that, so you can check that out on this channel somewhere. And that was a lot of fun too. But I don't do it often. I find it annoying to set up. It's not something I particularly enjoy, but this is one where I feel like people might be a little bit off base on why Sony has had to do this. I don't think this has to do with a cash grab. What would they have to do? They would have to go back to every developer who's ever made a PlayStation VR game, ask them to recode the entirety of their game to work with PlayStation VR 2, and then give it away for free. I don't think that's fair to the developers. And honestly, it's not one of those ones where I think it's a gotcha for Sony. I think Sony kind of made the right call here, making a separation between the two. And a lot of the new games are sounding sort of interesting. The Horizon game sounds kind of cool. Like, I can imagine fighting robot dinosaurs in VR sounds fun. And some of the other ones I've read about that I'm blanking on off the top of my head. But look, if you're into VR, PlayStation VR 2 sounds like it's doing a lot of things right. They're doing, well, here, let's just watch the trailer again with all the marketing stuff. For great sensory interaction, they have haptic feedback in the joysticks. Yeah, I mean, the joysticks are better. The headset is better. They're doing interesting things with the tracking where it feels more one-to-one. The experiences have been positive. And all in all, I'm kind of excited about the new PlayStation VR 2 on behalf of people who are into VR. Maybe I'll get to check it out, but I'm not going to go out of my way to play PlayStation VR 2 on this channel, short of, you know, somebody sending me one, like IGN sending me one to do for work reasons. Then I'll check it out. But otherwise, probably not going to be me playing a whole lot of these games. I hope that is you, though. And I just kind of wanted to say, hey, you know, before you start saying they're being money grabby, let's talk about the reasons why PlayStation VR 2 isn't compatible with PSVR 1. And maybe you'll realize, okay, maybe this is one of those situations where we can't be too hard on Sony, because it's a really tough spot to be in, forcing developers to code their stuff to work with the new system. Or I don't even know how they would do it. How would you, like, recode all the new games so that they also have this completely different input scenario? This isn't like remapping buttons on a controller, right? This is light bars. This is different sensors. This is different options for people. And I don't think this is one where it makes sense to have backwards compatibility. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the situation. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. I appreciate you watching very much. Thank you. If you want to become a member, memberships are turned on. Thank you so much to all of the members who have watched this video and supported this channel. I appreciate you. You can click that join button right down there to become a member. Thank you so much. And I'm going to get out of here for now. Bye, everybody.